Greetings to everybody who has joined in from different parts of the world to take part in this really important discussion. We also request that right now, things are very, very tense in Manipur right now. So anything that we say could further hurt or harm others. So as a result, we please respect Chatham House rules. That means you can share what is happening, but do not quote any particular to avoid targeted attacks on any individual, because many of us have been personally attacked for our stance on peace. So I just wanted to share this, and a warm welcome. My name is Bina Nepram, and I am with the Global Alliance of Indigenous People, Gender, Justice, and Peace. I'm also in the board of International Peace Bureau, and I'm so glad that the International Peace Bureau is hosting this meeting on understanding and finding ways of peace, healing, and reconciliation in Manipur right now. We are joined by several people from the ground in Manipur, which is really critical. Dhiren Sadokpam, who is right now in the middle of firefighting. Napam, who is also right now in the middle of firefighting at the front lines. And we have Panti, Gonmei, also one of our incredible women leaders who is, in spite of our ill health, is trying to ensure that we are continuing to have peace in our communities. And Ravinder Singh, who is an expert on peace and also security issues, joining in from New Delhi. And we have Fred Lubang, who is also joining us from the Philippines. So really grateful, and I give the floor to the Vice President of International Peace Bureau, Cora, who is again one of the most amazing women peace leaders that the world has ever seen, speaking from the Philippines at this late in the night. So thank you so much for joining us. And Cora, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bina, and it's been a pleasure to join, a gathering on Manipur. And of course, I'd like to send my warm greetings on behalf of the International Peace Bureau. And today, on the eve of the International Summit for Peace in Ukraine, we're doing this because we also, despite the many challenges, because we believe that we cannot, postpone, to hold an occasion for us to be able to know and to respond to the current grave situation in Manipur. And today, as our IPB family gathers in Vienna, also to celebrate the 180th birthday of the founder of IPB, Bertha Boon Suttner, whose life has been a mirror of audacity in terms of peace and peace building and justice. So that picking up from there, we felt that we have to do this tonight, even if it's a way of saying also from our end that IPB is trying to address the big, issues such as that are visible, such as the war in Ukraine. But it is also our commitment to look at struggles, at situations that has become invisible and even forgotten. And I think that is where we are at today, wherever you are, that we do not forget the forgotten and the invisibles. Just like for many years, Manipur has been. And we would like to make this an occasion not only to learn, but also an occasion for us to see the beginnings of a possible working together, addressing ways forward. I said a start, and hopefully it's something that is meaningful because it's coming from the stories of women, men, and children at Manipur. So that having that in mind, uh, we hope that this meeting tonight, today, will generate not only courage and unity for action, um, a way of honoring our friends who are at a very grievous situation at these times. And we look forward to listening to stories from the ground, as that is what it matters. Yes, we're listening to stories of lives that are being sacrificed and being in danger. And we also listen to people who have had experience and life work in peace building and disarmament. We appreciate that very much, so that we can look at possible ways forward and to restore peace in Manipur. It is also our hope, that our collective call for peace in this gathering will resonate in Vienna. Some of us will be speaking in that summit, that the small struggles, the invisible and the forgotten, will be surfaced and will be serve as a reminder that the big struggles comes from small struggles that we are all involved in. So good evening, and I hope that we come out of this gathering as feeling more informed, more courageous, and more inspired.
Thank you very much, Cora. To remind everyone who doesn't know about International Peace Bureau, it is the world's oldest peace organization, which was established, I believe, in the year which year was it established, Theo?
1891, November of 1891.
So it is a very it's a very, very old organization, and headquartered in Geneva, but then the functioning office is now in Berlin, in Germany. So, and they have several and it was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 1910, and several of its office bearers have also done incredible work around the world on peace. So that's why the importance of this meeting being hosted here at this time, grave time of trying to stop the war in Ukraine, as well as stop the war in Manipur right now. With this, I'm going to take the liberty, because we want to hear from the ground, but Sam from the Global Alliance prepared this PowerPoint, and I just wanted to, the Global Alliance have been mapping things on the ground on minute by minute, literally minute by minute. So we have some findings, and we will just share that in 2 minutes, and then we will give the floor to the speakers from the ground. So allow me to screen share. Yes. So Manipur in flames, what is happening as of what happened till yesterday. The conflict currently, for some of you, of course, let me go through the map. So the region of the world we are talking about is this region called the northeast of India, which is all in colors, but Manipur, the one in blue, is where the epicenter of the violence is. Just for others, there are 45 million people living in this region. Manipur alone, about close to 3 million. Look at this diversity. So what is happening right now is not just between two ethnic communities, but it is the weaponization of our identities. Look at the number of indigenous cultures, people languages. It should be a national geographer's paradise. But such a diverse, rich part of the world being literally put in flames in this part of the world, which is the world's largest democracy. What is also very critical is that this is a very important geostrategic area. The Northeast shares borders with China, Myanmar, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal. And so this is the geostrategic nature. This is the area where the first oil of India was dug. If you enjoy Assam tea or Earl Grey tea, it comes from this region near in Sikkim, Darjeeling. Assam tea, which is the English breakfast tea, is not even English. It comes from Assam in this part of the world. Just to let you know how this region has much of the forest cover left in India, a region of immense resource, a region rich with people and cultures and religion, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and right now attempts are made to weaponize the identities of each and every one. This is a problem in Manipur right now, just to give a context. So two ethnic communities are supposed to be fighting, the Kukis and the Meiteis right now. And so everybody says Kukis and Meiteis. Beyond that, they don't see that Manipur is also home to 30 plus other smaller indigenous groups, which are at the forefront of this conflict. So this conflict erupted, has been simmering for a while, but I'll just tell you what happened in the last couple of weeks. Over 150 people have been killed. Now, we can't even document more because many of the bodies have been burned to ashes. You can't even count how many died. Look at the homes. This is a phenomena of burning homes after homes. 7,750 homes burned down. 53,000 displaced. Believe this is all happening in the last 3 to 4 weeks. There are 314 refugee camps set up. This is all happening in Manipur, a tiny state amongst all the colorful states you've seen. Only in that blue state, this is happening. 35,000 troops deployed. More have come in the last 48 hours. 221 churches have been destroyed, 17 temples burned. But what is also critical is for many indigenous people in that 7,750 homes, every home in an indigenous region has, because many indigenous people don't have churches or temples. For them, their home, their deity is in their home. So when you burn their home, it also burns your spiritual, way. It burns that part of your life, your community, which also, so we can count churches and temples, but there are so many indigenous homes where the spiritual way of life literally has been burned down. Who will count that? Hundreds injured. Many districts remain under curfew. Internet has been banned since 3rd of May. Imagine. So we will never know the true number of deaths, but it is happening right now. And as I mentioned, the region is very, very critical. This is just to show the different ethnic diversity. So the conflict right now is supposed to be between the Kukis, which is here on the left, and the Meiteis, which is on the right. But then it's much more than what it is projected to be. The roots of the conflict, many will tell, has been the trigger of the Meitei people wanting a scheduled tribe status, because Meiteis are, what is a scheduled tribe status? Again, all of these are what I call, Quijano would call, a Latin American scholar would call the coloniality of power. The British use terms like scheduled caste, scheduled tribe to divide the different, to rule. It's like in the United States, federally recognized tribe and non-federally recognized tribes. So it is a coloniality of power. And as a result, for example, this could be taken out by the Indian Parliament anytime to say all Indians are all Indians, So, and then, because of, we are recognized, because when you're recognized, you're given certain measures. When you're not recognized, you don't get those benefits. So there is a tussle now going on that this may benefit some communities. It is, so all of these triggers, again, our experts are here to explain. The violence also have ramifications of what's happening in Burma. Let us not forget, because from Burma, according to the UN, this is a UN thing, that more than 53,000 refugees have come into Mizoram and Myanmar. So what is happening in Burma is also impacting, because some of the tensions in Manipur started with calling the Kuki community as refugees. Again, according to the Refugee Convention, which India is a signatory, it is critical for India to now really ensure that it signs this so that it makes it clear if there are, because people are fleeing wars, and it's the duty of nation states and communities to help those who are fleeing, but to such an extent that they are properly identified and then they are given support they need from the government side. That clarity is not there. As a result, so much of fear in Manipur that they will be inundated. So again, the fear psychosis generated has been one of the triggers of this conflict. What is really painful, and we have been shattered, shocked beyond words to see what has been happening. Look at the number of Meitei homes and Kuki homes. Again, these are homes not belonging to the rich and the warmongers. These are homes belonging to the poorest of the poor in the periphery. Village after village of both Meitei and Kuki homes been burned down. In Churachandpur, all this, again, it's the details are there. We are finalizing the report, which we will share as and when it is done. So there has been so many war crimes and atrocities. The Global Alliance have traced 11 cases of sexual violence since the violence erupted. And then again, we are looking towards dangerous fissures amongst ethnic lines have been created in Manipur right now. And we must work towards ensuring that we are able to give space for grieving and begin peace talks immediately. So these are some of the things that the Global Alliance have done to just put down the layers of the context of what's happening. With this, I'm going to immediately jump on and give it to Tamo Dhiren Sadokpam, who has been at the front line of what is happening. Tamo has been an incredible scholar. He is a very noted media personality in Manipur. Frontier Manipur has been doing really good work right in the battlefield right now to cover news, what's happening there. So let's hear from Tamo Dhiren Sadokpam from Manipur. Yeah. Tamo, you are muted. Tamo, you are muted. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, thank you, International Peace Bureau, and of course Binalakshmi, for inviting me to this forum. I think what I needed to say, I think Binalakshmi has already, said almost 90% of what is actually happening at the ground level. But I just got a message just now on my mobile saying that in a shoot now, this is from our executive editor who is right on the ground, and he always goes in the front line. He's our executive editor of the Frontier Manipur. And we have this, he's known for going to the ground and reporting from ground zero. So in a shootout in Sangai Thel area of Imphal West district, this is in the Valley district, that started around 4 a.m. today, early morning. 3 persons are reported killed and 2 more are wounded. And the sources said that there were exchange of fire between 2 groups. And the thing is not clear because one group says that is the military who actually fired, Indian military forces who fired at the villages, and another group says is someone else, some miscreants who used the military vehicles and went inside the village and fired. And also there are different versions floating around, but in a while, I think my executive producer would be able to inform me what actually happened. And in the exchange of fire, of course, 3 people died and 2 are injured. And this is in Kongkan village, which is, bordering Imphal West and Kangpopi district. This is hardly 2 kilometers from Sangai Thel area, which is again in the Valley district, but closer to the another district, which is primarily inhabited by the Kuki tribes. And according to his report, that the area has been cordoned off by the Assam Rifles, the Army, the BSF, CRPF, and Manipur Police Commandos. So I think at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 agencies are at work trying to, maintain some semblance of order, trying to douse the fire. In a sense, they are doing what is normally what we understand in Manipur are search operations or conducting combing operations. And they are underway and at least in 2 villages called Sahibung and Aboijang. These are all between Imphal West district and Kangpokpi district in Manipur. But having said this, what I wanted to emphasize is part of this presentation that I wanted to do, and I have not prepared as such, but what I wanted to emphasize in this forum is not so much about the factual data that is flowing out of Manipur, because there are different ways of interpreting them. As Binalakshmi has said that, if the community I belong to, I'm a Métis, if I say something, there are 90% chances of misinterpreting it by the other community, and same goes for them too. So that, you are forced to take sides even if you don't want to take sides. So conflict situations in such a kind of a phase where, people who wants to be objective in understanding things, they would be forced to take sides, following the, all dictums that all is fair in peace and war kind of a thing. But I do not want to follow that, because for my effort has been so far, not only gathering information from the grassroots or from the front line, but also trying to understand it, infusing myself with a sense of sanity. When I say sense of sanity means it is finding a perspective to what is actually happening. So I have always insisted, and I have written also in my pieces that I write, not necessarily editorial pieces, but in kind of analytical pieces that I do for my website. I've already mentioned that if one wants to understand what is actually going on in Manipur, or what has been termed as inter-ethnic violence between the Chin, Kuki, Zo group and the Métis community, there are at least 4 elements that we should understand. The first one, of course, is the local dynamics, which Binalakshmi and I had just put across, put in certain facts that is going on way back home in Manipur. Then second is what we understand as inter-ethnic violence, or ethnic violence as in the normative sense. And the third one, or the second one, is the origin of tension. The second one is, of course, the origin of tension. And thirdly, what I understood as narco-politics. And lastly, the fourth element, which I think is very important, is India's strategic cross-border interest, or is it India's geopolitical reality that India is going to face in the coming days, or which is already facing. So these are the 4 elements that I wanted to emphasize on. And as far as local dynamics is concerned, I think, as I said, Binalakshmi has already put across. And right now, according to the presentation which Binalakshmi has put across, she said there are around 35,000 troops that is combining both the state and the Indian military forces, that is Central Security Forces, combined with the Manipuri force. But I just got information that there are now over 40,000. So my first question is asking, what is this 40,000 troops, including the state police, doing in the last 1 month to douse the fire or to keep peace? Okay, let us assume for a while 40,000 troops are involved to actually keep peace. Forget about controlling them on the ground. Are you implying that India, as an emerging superpower, is unable to control an ethnic conflict that happens in the easternmost corner of India, bordering Myanmar and China and Bangladesh, unable to control the situation? What is actually going on? There are also allegations flowing around. It is a state police force which has around 30,000 unable to control. Okay, let us assume for a while that state government, that is the Manipur government, has totally failed. It's understood. You need one needs to not mention whether the state has failed or not. But my question is, has the Indian state failed? With 40,000 troops on the ground, how long are we going to make this madness go on? So that is a question that I wanted to put across. But as I go along, because I get quite passionate about trying to go deeper into this kind of politics. But I've always insisted that the 4 elements that I talked about, that is local dynamics, which Vinay and I are already mentioning, and the ethnic tension that has erupted, and also the second, how the tension actually started, and thirdly, narco politics, and largely and also the the last point that I want to emphasize is India's cross-border interests as well as geopolitical reality. But first, I think what began, and let's begin with the ground reality, but from certain perspective, what began as a kind of ethnic conflict has a lot to do with, okay, the point of departure was the Meitei community, some of the Meitei communities or some sections of the Meitei community wanting to be included in the affirmative action, if you want to use the American thing, in the affirmative action, kind of a program which government of India had initiated since independence, called listing a community into the scheduled list. Once, if you're in a scheduled list, you join the part of the affirmative action, or what we call positive discrimination otherwise. And also in the Indian subcontinent, we call reservations, cutting across. But unfortunately, Meiteis have not been part of this affirmative action for a long time, primarily because of different dynamics that happen in the part of our region called the Northeast. So leaving that aside, what seemingly began as a kind of a peace march, that overnight turned into kind of a violence between two communities. I mean, if one go by the chronology of facts, how it began, I do not also want to relate this thing with the demand for inclusion of the Meiteis into the scheduled tribe list. It has a longer, I mean, what to call the causes of this kind of a tension has been pretty, I mean, it's quite, see, Kukis already had their spat, the kind of fight with Nagas way back in the early 1990s, and now it is with the Meiteis. But having said this, the element of land contradiction, or what we normatively understand as land conflict, that has to be put across, rather than, one community seeking affirmative action for what particular community and the other community opposing it. No, it's not like that. Had it been so, the Kuki area and the Naga area, and Meiteis are sandwiched between the Kuki area and the Naga areas, and this rally, so-called rally against this community called Meitei community, becoming or enlisting themselves into the scheduled list of tribals in India. Had it been the kind of a agenda of all the tribals, how did trouble began only in areas inhabited by the Kuki tribes, or so-called the Chin Kuki Mizo Zo tribe? There were no incidents of any incidents coming out of Naga, and that too is a tribal area. So please do not fall trap to some kind of a propaganda that says the fight is between tribals and non-tribals. That is not true at all. Even if you use a bit of logical parameters, that is not true at all. Okay, of course there are oppositions, but I'm talking about the violence. Violence began primarily in More, which is a Tengnoupal district, which is dominantly inhabited by the Chin Kuki Mizo group, and in Churchandpur district, dominantly inhabited by the Chin Kuki Mizo group, and also in Kangpokpi, dominantly inhabited by the Chin Kuki Mizo group. In none of the Naga areas, there were no sense of what you call, or no simmering violence that ever happened. There are no records of any violence that happened, even now, till today. And even the Nagas who stays in the valley, they would say the same thing. Nothing has happened to us. How and why? So that is another moot questions that, whoever's trying to understand this issue should understand. So let me come back to what I mentioned as land contradiction, or, the kind of a conflict over forest resources. So government of India also, through different acts, have something called a protected forest area and also reserve forest areas. So what is happening over a period of time is there had been an influx of, not necessarily because of the recent military junta that has taken over in Myanmar, but even before that, even during the heydays of height of democracy, that was just before the advent of the military junta in Burma, or even before that, so there were this spat of, gradual and in what influx of loss of illegal immigration that has happened. And Bina had rightly mentioned, though India had been a signatory to the conventions on refugees, but it has never had a kind of a refugee policy vis-a-vis people flowing from even Bangladesh or Myanmar. Though, for whatever reasons, it has had a static and also stable and also a dynamic. When I say static is, I mean, kind of a consistent policy vis-a-vis the Tibetans who have taken, who had migrated to India. Tibetans are given what? They're given Dharamshala as kind of a capital in exile and all that. Why is government of India not having such kind of a policy where each and every flow of refugees or each and every flow of so-called illegal immigrations is taken into account, and they are made responsible for settling their life? See, India, by virtue of the Sino-India War in 1962, already have impeccable records of accepting refugees, be it from Pakistan or elsewhere, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, everywhere. But they have had a steady and a very dynamic process vis-a-vis the Tibetans. I don't know what is the reason. Maybe that is because of the Sino-India relations. We have no other explanation to that. But had there been a consistent refugee policy or consistent immigration policy vis-a-vis the kind of people who have run away due to economic migration, forced by the economic hardships that people face across the border in Myanmar, or we normally still call Burma, okay? If they have faced the problem, if India had this consistent policy on refugee, this would not have been, I mean, the kind of violence that we see today would not have seen its light of its day. What has happened is, okay, the north is starting from, in the extreme north, starting from bits of Arunachal, then Nagaland, Manipur, then Mizoram had its share of what is in the subcontinent normally understood as insurgencies. Okay, there have been long historical insurgency, and in fact, Naga insurgency is one of the longest ever running insurgency in the entire world. So we are not, I mean, Indian think tank is not new to the significance of these areas. My basic questions is, if there had been a Sino-India conflict way back in 1962, and they have understood the kind of the imperatives of, I mean, accepting Tibetan refugees or Tibetan population into India, and also organizing in a nice way, giving them, providing them shelter, not only shelter, even allowing them to have a political capital in a place called Dharamsala, why is it not possible for India to have a consistent policy on this Indo-Burma front? That is one aspect that one needs to ponder upon. Because of this failure of this policy, and also massive influx of people, particularly we are not talking about the post-military takeover of Myanmar, but we are talking about a little bit back in history, okay? Because of this massive flow of immigration, there had been land pressure even in the hills. Forget about the valley districts of Manipur, even in the hills. And hence, they, every poor, wretched immigrants that has come across and also have acquired Indian identity through various means. And there are petitions in the Election Commission of India. There are many petitions lying there saying that many of these people who have crossed over have got Aadhaar card and voter card where they could vote and become Indians, and some have even acquired passports over a long period of time, Indian passports. So what I'm trying to say is, if this had been put in check, things would not have been this bad. Anyway, because of the land pressure, they have no other option but to stay in reserve forest and protected forest areas. And this is a natural choice, because if a settlement cannot fit them, it is obvious for them to move along elsewhere. And if people move elsewhere, they would obviously encroach upon what is known as protected forest areas or the reserve forest areas in Manipur. And to protect the forest areas in Manipur, the onus falls on the state government, though center also has a say on this. But while trying to kind of address all this issue, what is happening is Manipur also has, over a period of time, gradually become a plantation basket of a plantation, poppy plantation area over a period of time. So in effect, if you want, those of us who are very familiar with what we normally understand as the Golden Triangle in the eastern east of Myanmar, and covering parts of Southeast Asian 2-3 nations, if you understand that area, the area now, the actual quantum of poppy production in that area, and compare that with the quantum of poppy plantation in Manipur, I've been told that, the quantum of poppy production in Manipur is now higher than what we understood as the Golden Triangle now. And how did it all come about? It all came about because of populations. I don't want to name anymore in terms of ethnic lines, but because of this impoverished people have no other choice but to resort to, this kind of a poppy plantation. But what happened while doing, while engaging into poppy plantation in Manipur? Who all are the poppy planters? Nobody knows actually, because if the government of Manipur has launched what it calls war against drugs, what they have done so far is catch all these small-time peddlers and carriers and all those people who are, normally doing peddling. Okay. Beyond that, nobody has been able to track down the who are the real kingpins or the real people who are engaged into this big cartels, drug cartels. Nobody seems to know it, but it is a fact. If you look at the records of the Narcotics Bureau in Manipur, the NAP, and also Narcotic Bureau elsewhere, you will know the biggest ever hauls are all in the state of Manipur. If they are not in the state of Manipur, that has its origin from the state of Manipur, carrying out drugs being ferried from out of the state of Manipur. And all along, what has been government of India doing, God knows. When I say God knows, means there have been also reports of even security forces falling trap to the drug cartels. Their own records. You can do a Google search, is easy. I don't have to spell it out, So what I'm trying to say is, because of this prolonged militarization, insurgency, the impoverished population across the border, and also the impoverished population in parts of Manipur have fallen trapped to some kind of a economic situation where, it automatically, one doesn't need to actually, force generate the conflict. The conflict has been automatically generated, but there are people who have taken chances over this, seemingly, very dangerous game that is being played around. But having said this, after the advent of the violence in Manipur, the Chin Kuki Mizo group had demanded, separate administration. And, their logic is simple, is quote unquote, and, the 10 MLAs, of which actually, 8 of them belongs to the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, that is the ruling party of India. They belong to them amongst these Kuki MLAs. They are saying that, the violence had been actually perpetrated by the majority Meitei community and was tacitly supported by the BJP-run state government, as if the state, that is New Delhi, had no clue about what is happening. So today, if the kind of fear that I have is, the kind of a, I won't call it ignorance, the kind of a, not paying attention to certain, certain issues. Okay. How could Delhi keep watching all this unfolding in front of, its own citizens there? So two communities eventually have to kill each other now because of all the failure of both the state governments as well as the union government. And I also say that union government, for whatever reasons, may be thinking that, geopolitically, I think this area is very important, but what do we do now? Maybe in the state of confusion. But for me, rather than in the state of confusion, I think, government of India also is looking at something, given the kind of situation that is now happening in Manipur. I think government is just watching, perhaps observing the kind of a geopolitical reactions that's going to come. And I have always argued that please understand the geographical location that we are in. As I said, unlike the Sino-India War of 1962, and later on, after the Tibetan people, refugees and other things had been properly settled in this side of the country in India, and because of that international flashpoint, conflict flashpoint, there has been an easy way of accumulating, not necessarily accumulating, but also installing military hardware and as well as amassing troops. So that way, parts of Arunachal, which actually borders with Tibet, are secure in that sense. But this part of thing, there are no military bases that can actually, we can actually call in the defense terminology a kind of a strategic defense line. Or is it because of the long, maybe, I don't know the causes perhaps could be the long running insurgency that's across this, in this site. So because of the absence of what I normally understand as installation of military hardware, because the failure to install a military hardware, I think also there is a certain kind of imperatives that is forcing Delhi to think of along those lines, and how do we actually militarize the whole area so that we secure the defense of India, which is a primary important to New Delhi, which is primarily of utmost importance to New Delhi. So how do you secure this? To secure this area, you need to install military hardware as well as amass troops. But it cannot be done, it cannot be done simply like that. But the invocation of what I understand as Article 355, which specifically mentions that the center means the New Delhi can intervene in the affairs of the state if it faces external aggression and internal disturbances. Okay, so if you read this Article 355 in between the lines, we can well know, there is a fear of external aggression. But because of fear of external aggression, one cannot underplay or just dismiss what is happening in the civil strife. I call it the civil strife that is happening in Manipur, just because you have to maintain that kind of thing. It has to be at a simultaneous process. First, settle the conflict, then India should install whatever it needs to do for its own defense. That is very well understood because it's given prime importance by the Modi government. That has to be done. But New Delhi cannot sit and allow two communities to kill each other at this rate and at this juncture where, the strategic importance of India has been very well discussed across in any parts of the world, and which India is playing a big role to occupy that space, international, kind of a space, which I think that is very important.
Dhiren,
Yeah?
I think, do you have other points to make?
Yeah, I'm coming to my conclusion.
Okay,
so
okay.
basically my conclusion, let me conclude now.
Sure.
And if that area is not settled, and also we know who actually controls the Golden Triangle, how is these things come to this kind of a thing. So, and I said this, India cannot abandon its strategic interests, even it has to gamble with, something that we are familiar with, particularly with narco trade. But doing this kind of a game can be also doubly dangerous. So what I'm trying to say is government leader very well knows what is actually happening. So it should apply his wisdom to settle the issue for once and for all. It will take time and, kind of a what you call reconciliation between the two communities. If you are having a kind of a way forward, is going to be a very difficult one, but there would always be ways to intervene. But for the time being, bringing peace and controlling, killing each other is of topmost priority. And before we start any peace negotiation, peace should be there first. Before start any form of negotiation. That is all I wanted to put across. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dhiren. Please join me in thanking him for his really lucid and very clear, analysis which is coming out. His analysis is something I haven't heard in the last 3 weeks from anyone on Indian television, nor they haven't said this perspective. If India could settle the Tibetan refugees and ensure that they are clearly defined and clearly, then why is it not doing to the people who are coming in from Burma, so that the fear that is there in the minds of so many people in the Northeast could be allayed, which can bring a semblance of some form of understanding of what's happening. But again, the security angle is also very much clearly defined by Tamo Dhiren. So, and of course, right now, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, it is said that actually after the military juntas take over last 2 years, the drug production in the Indo-Burma border has doubled. So I think these are very serious implications. Migration is a part of life. People will move from one part of the world to the other. But again, how do we have a process that people are able to feel that we all need to look out for each other rather than killing each other? I mean, that's something that, and are we deliberately made to kill each other? Okay, what is the background of these? So these are some of the questions which Tamo Dhiren has really pointed out. And I will call upon Panti. Panti, again, she is undergoing treatment, and I'm so grateful to her for joining in spite of her ill health. Panti, we are so grateful to you. She is one of our eminent leaders from Manipur who have been working to bridge ethnic communities. She has worked a lot for sexual violence survivors. She's one of the most selfless women leaders, indigenous women leaders that we have ever known. So Panti, please say a few words. Yeah. Panti, you are muted. Can you unmute your voice? Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I'm so glad to have this platform again. I'm just back from the hospital, and I'm so happy for so long. Since 2018 May, I have been left out from different platforms such as like this. And I'm always be a voice for peace. And I always love to work for peace. So today's topic is one of my most interesting topic. Today we have found for this platform, restoring peace and how the way forward. So when I come back and I see this topic, I'm so excited, and this is my really, it is, I have been working for it, and now so much harm has been done to one another since 1993, I think, between our community, Naga and Koki, but there was no bloodshed at this time. So I'm so sorry to see the loss and the suffering of our Koki community, other ones, Meiteis, and all these two communities. In Sodia one, in the state, beautiful state, Golden Land. So we are brothers and sisters. No one is left out. We are one family members. So I'm so sad, and I'm always, though I cannot be there with them. If I could, I'm able to, if I'm not sick, I used to tell Bina also that I'll be there with all of you to stand for peace and truth. So to restore peace, there are so many reasons that not only this time, we all know that behind the things we always talk about how we did not identify. Sometimes we forget the common enemies who are behind all this. Here we are fighting among brothers, but the real enemies we don't identify at times. Because this time it has seemed, because I'm not the real speaker, this I may not take much time, but I just wanted to point out many have social workers, and many educated ones, and many learned have been pointing out this throughout these months, but only one, two things only to identify the root cause. I'm so unhappy about our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. There's almost a month, more than a month now. The bloodshed, the tears, the loss of our communities, not only Koki and Meitei, all are suffering together. The whole ethnic 34, 35 groups of people are suffering together because we fled our homes because of fear and all this. So not a sentence, not a what he uttered. This is one thing I just want to point out today. And recently, I don't mind speaking on behalf of the people who are in the recent train accident, but the same treatment we love to hear from our most look up leader, the country's father, Narendra Modi ji. He spoke for that. So we feel that we are left out and we are treated, given motherly, stepmotherly treatment. That's why I'm not happy, though I'm here. So this is one thing. And they also talk about, many people are talking about that Christian churches have been lost, burned. But you know, this is not religion issue. That's what many are speaking of. Today, I'm so happy now we are pointing out the point that Christian churches have been now, because nobody is caring about the churches that have lost. So this is, India is the largest, the most largest democratic country, but you know, so many churches in the 2-3 days, the churches have been demolished, dismantled, burned. Oh, but many people, many big people, big guys have pointed out that, speaking out that nothing is, no religion issue, this and that. So this is one thing I'm talk about and said about, and they want to diversity also. Now that's why the accurate number of the churches burned down is not mentioned. So I'm not speaking, I'm not bringing out all this, but at the end, God is there. So this thing will not go on. Peace will come back. Mercy will come back in our land. Peace will restore. We have many ways forward. In Jeremiah 32:17, nothing is too hard for the Lord. So we are praying that our land, Manipur, will be peace again. We'll all live together. Koki, Naga, all our indigenous group. I don't mean everyone. So we have different categories, but we will live again, because it is the fittest survival issue also. Because all are in this beautiful land, small land, all are squeezing together. So the people who are staying, I don't mean that some are coming back, and we did, as the Constitution in India has granted that before independence, those who have settled in India are indigenous. That also we agree. But beyond that, so the original people will not be able to survive. That is another biggest question here. All cannot fit in a small land. That is a big issue now. So at the end, as I conclude, we all must be the peacemaker. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemaker, for this will be called the children of God. So there are so many people who are silent spectators now. My brothers, my sisters, brothers and sisters are crying, and Meta is crying, and some are standing just watching. That also, I'm not happy about it. So I'll be here with prayer or whatever level I can from anywhere I am. So I'm so happy. Vina, you are always there for our people, always there for the people who are in need. And I also thank all the brothers and sisters who are addressing today for peace. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Panti. In spite of your very difficult health, you managed to address us today. It is a blessing to hear your words of healing. Blessed be the peacemakers, Matthew, that you have quoted. May this reverberate across Manipur. As you rightly said, I know families very close to my own family, Meitei men married to Kuki men married to Meitei, Naga men, all are like, we are human beings in the end. We are all human beings, and no human being is illegal. Let us be very clear. No human being is illegal. Is there a way that we can work to ensure the concept of live and let live without killing each other like this, or made to kill each other? And as you rightly pointed out, that we need, I think, during all these weeks of violence, we, the indigenous women groups in Manipur, across ethnic groups, our communications didn't stop. We did not stop because we know this is not the first time violence has happened in Manipur. And we know that somebody, as we mentioned, it says this violence is engineered by people who are close to guns, drugs, and power. We know from day one on 3rd that this violence is engineered. And in the process, so many innocents have lost their lives in one of the most horrific atrocity ever committed on our people. So thank you so much, Panti. We continue to say our prayers and continue to do our peace work so that we are able to get solutions to this crisis. And we are working very hard, meeting several people across board to be able to find solutions. So I think this is really, really important. Okay. So we will now go to, we have Ravinder Pal Singh ji, who is joining us from Delhi. Ravinder Pal Singh ji has been, he was in Mizoram at the height of insurgency. He knows what's happening in our region, and he also has been in most of his life. I met him as a peace researcher, somebody who has worked on accountability, rule of law, deepening of our democracies. He's someone we really hold, one of the most senior voices that we've ever been supported of, and he from New Delhi. So Ravinder Pal Singh ji, the floor is all yours. Yeah. Let us know what's happening in Delhi. What are the Delhi policymakers thinking about what's happening, and what is the way out after listening to Tamo Dhiren and Panti? You are muted.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Pardon?
Can you hear me now, everybody,
yes,
please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Bina, and thank you, IPB and everybody for giving their time and ideas. I'm going to be talking on 3 aspects. One is restoration of peace. The point which Dhiren had mentioned, that you have to restore peace before you take structured steps for peace building. And the second, what I'll be talking about is reconciliation steps. And third, if I get time, I will briefly comment on the points which Bina has raised on the situations and what has led to conflict, the issues of affirmative action, and why there's a different kinds of treatment being given to Myanmaris and Tibetan refugees. So that will be the last. If the time permits, you let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk on the imperatives of restoration of peace first. Now, first and foremost, it is very important that peace has to be restored. For that, the state apparatus, which has failed miserably in restoring peace in Manipur, which has 9 districts and a little over 3,000 villages. And it is certainly strange that a force of 40,000 odd soldiers, I'm not sure whether Manipur police has been that, but the reports have said that the Manipur police has got involved in the conflict. They have taken sides, they've given their weapons away to the belligerents, and so on and so forth. So that is one major problem of the local policing, which has shown partiality. So what has to be done? First and foremost, if the army and the central police forces have been called in, they have to restore personal safety in the villages which are being attacked, under threat, and beyond the immediate threats. So the personal safety of the villages have to be ensured. A thing which India has been traditionally weak has been gender policing, though there are about 150 odd cases reported. But be that as it may, that's not the question. Gender policing is very important. The structures have not been created. That has to be, in some ways, a system has to be brought in an ad hoc way. Third is medical assistance to the injured. And the fourth is livelihood assistance to the houses burned down and over 3,000 houses of Methis and 3,000 or so, a little more of cookies have been destroyed. So their lives have to be restored. And these are the important peace building or peace restoration steps. There also has to be economic incentives for the villages which are under threat or have got involved, for them to maintain local police and peace. Unless you give them incentives to maintain peace, so that structure has to be brought in. It is different from giving to the people who have lost lives, etc. That's a kind of a compensation you give to the people who have lost houses, etc. So incentives have to be created to the villages to maintain peace. If they fail to maintain peace, then disincentives have to be delivered. The second important thing in this restoration of peace and stability is recovery of weapons and ammunition, which has been stolen to a large extent, to my surprise, from Manipur police contingents, armories, etc. That's the top priority, the restoration of weapons. A disciplinary action against the force which has shown partiality and bias towards certain communities. Third action is, since the government, and Veena has said that this is a long simmering, as Dhiren has also mentioned, conflict. That means the government has failed to read the tea leaves and understand what is happening. And I think the central government should dismiss the state government, bring in a new administration for the immediate, for the restoration of peace. Unfortunately, there's too much of politics in the central government. And the state government is already in alliance with the central government, political parties. So that is going to be the problem. The state government, having failed, should be dismissed, and the central administration has to be brought in, so that new ideas to develop and restore peace can come in. New approaches have to be applied. And that won't come in with the old government because they already have certain interests embedded into the system. So considering the fact that the riots which have taken place and the damage, the loss of property and lives is evidence of failure, continuation of the existing political administration is an example of how the central government is failing in its duty. My next point is about what reconciliation steps can be taken. First is restoration of peace, and second is reconciliation steps. Now, as we have understood and communicated, exchanged views on this, there are deeper social, cultural, and sociological fears and animosity between some of the tribal communities, which Dhiren also mentioned that the conflict was of access to affirmative action benefits. So if that be so, there has to be focused steps in social and intra-tribal confidence building. And everybody has to get a fair share of the government benefits. So that has to be created. And I think that is the biggest failure of Manipur government ever since Veena has been engaged with this issue. That the governments, even though they are representative, they represent majority communities and have not been sensitive to the minority fears and insecurities. Second point is understand the political, economic, and constitutional barriers and limitations to develop inter-tribal conflict resolutions. So if there are any constitutional changes required or political changes required, they have to be brought in. If there are certain economic incentives or benefits to be given to ameliorate the conditions for the minorities, that have to be delivered. So I think only with the change of government, new ideas, new initiatives, new approaches can be tried. The next point is we have to look at what are the opportunities and options to progress conflict resolution. Now, this is in 3 levels. One would be at the state level, second would be at the regional level, and the third would be at the international level. At the state level, the experts who have already spoken, they know best what should be done to build harmony between the tribes. At the regional level, I think influence has to be brought in, not only for the Manipur, but the likelihood of inter-tribal conflicts emerging in other states, whether it is Tripura, Nagaland, Assam, or so on and so forth. These places also have a history of violence. And if the government is not energetic, intellectually engaged to understand what are the likely conflicts which may emerge or get inspired by what's happened in Manipur, then that's another example of the government failure. So it has to take steps at the regional level as well, so that those regions, those states do not take opportunities, and preventive steps have to be taken in political, economic, and constitutional spheres. India has done well in creating autonomous tribal district councils. And in my comparative reading of different constitutions, how it impacts conflicts, I think those initiatives have to be strengthened, brought to attention, and given their due opportunities to build reconciliation between the 2 different or 3 or different tribal identities. Over the years, the tribal autonomous district councils have lost the significance which they must be restored. The next point is civil society dialogue, which is important for the trust and reconciliation building. We have to have multi-institutional, multi-denominational actors representing both genders, church communities or different tribal identities, faith-based dialogue, etc., so that they give us ideas of how trust building can be initiated. It can't be done in Delhi. Not only they're not interested, they're indifferent. Has the Prime Minister visited Manipur? No. Let alone spoken about it? So that is the answer from Delhi. It has to come, the indigenous people have to take steps to build trust and organize themselves. There has to be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which should bring out the facts and limitations. Why this simmering of long-standing tribal discontent and hostility has not been resolved. See, if the questions are accurate, you will get answers to that question. But if the broad philosophical questions are given, and we all speak from as bleeding heart liberals, this should not have happened. Of course, the conflict should have happened. But the question is, what has the government done and not done? The whole legitimacy of the state is now in question. Third point in this is that the representative communities, leaders, should develop an action plan which gives early warning and likelihood of future breakdown of communications and conflict reoccurring again. That in a nutshell are my points. And if you want me to briefly comment on the issue of Tibetan versus Myanmar refugees, I can do that. That the issue with Tibetan refugees and the circumstances of 1962, under which India hosted them, were politically different even now. Myanmar is a country which has been unfortunate recipient of military interventions and domination. The whole region has got a very unfortunate experience in history, whether it is tribal conflicts in Chittagong Hill Tracts bordering bordering Mizoram, or tribal conflicts between different faiths and communal identities in Arakan. Arakanis have different groups fighting against each other. There are tribal identities in Mizoram, and so as in Manipur we are witnessing now. There's a conflict between Nagas and Assamese, which is also going on. So those are the kind of things which, unfortunately, government of India has not given the attention which this region deserves. On the other hand, the only long-serving institutional identity which made India's Myanmar policy was the bureaucracy, the foreign service diplomats. You can't accuse them for lack of imagination. They generally, like all diplomats everywhere, play safe. The politicians, ever since the issues emerged in Myanmar, have given very little attention to what needs to be done. Their time and attention was consumed more with Pakistan, to some extent with China, and none at all with Myanmar. So bureaucrats who went there to Yangon got posted. I don't want to mention, they have really horrific understanding of how to build peace between societies. They take a typical bureaucratic view of what's good for them and their next posting, how they would look good. And that has been the reason of unimaginative, myopic policy vis-a-vis Myanmar. They don't even admit that Myanmar has influence. I'm glad Dhiren mentioned it, and he should write more about it. The impact of Myanmar instability on Northeast regions. Now, the press in India is viewing differently different areas, not forgetting that there are serious implications of 5 states which are bordering Myanmar. And we have a phlegmatic, short-sighted bureaucrats who are only interested in career building. I hope, Dhiren, that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ravinder Singh ji. I think since both of you are in Delhi, you should meet up and continue this conversation. What I would add is not just the Manipur government failed, but the central government, as you rightly pointed out, has completely failed. And Panti also mentioned the Prime Minister of India not even saying a word till now, even after 37 days of continued killings on the ground and burning. So that's something we should look at. And also what you mentioned in terms of how the inability. So we haven't spoken about the geopolitics is mentioned, but one of the important aspects which people in Manipur are also crying out is in the past couple of weeks of how they feel that the PDF fighters from Burma are involved in attacking Manipuri villages is a very, very serious report. Please identify whoever is dealing with it. Please identify, is this correct? If this is what's happening, then it is also an external aggression on India. What is very strange is the Gujarat riots, where over 2,000 Muslims were killed in 2002, around that time, was put down in 3 days. 3 days to put down the Gujarat riots. And till today, Manipur is struggling in pain for the last 37 days nonstop with all the military might in the world. So yes, there is a deficit failure of trust, and I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done. So it's a good time to bring in our dear friend, Fred Lubang, who is heading the Nonviolent International Southeast Asia, has worked in Philippines, in the conflict area of the Mindanao area. He is also a global leader on disarmament. I've known him for almost 15 years of my life. And in every time I see Fred, he has worked very hard to ensure that how do we work to build peaceful, resilient societies. So Fred, the floor is all yours. And we are so grateful. We are so grateful that you are here. And Fred, the Southeast Asia Nonviolence International issued a statement yesterday calling for peace in Manipur. And I think more global bodies will now, with International Peace Bureau and many others, if this call of peace comes, I think we will be able to find some solutions. Again, as I mentioned, this is a very exploratory meeting. In the next meeting, we will carry more voices and more people. As Dhiren also said, things are so sensitive that anything that we say could be misconstrued. And it could be retaliated by any sides. So we are, again, under Chatham House rules to ensure that whatever is shared is not attributed to one person, but ensure that what we are doing with the intent of doing no more harm, and also ensuring that we have peace in our hearts and our minds as we try to find solutions. So Fred, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Bina, and International Peace Bureau for this opportunity. It's really good also to hear from our friends about the current situation in Manipur. I have been to Manipur, but that does not make me as an expert here, but really it's more of a reminder on how beautiful your home, how beautiful Manipur, and it's just sad to see the escalation of violence, and this is really more of an expression of concern. And as Bina mentioned, we issued a statement, Nonviolence International Southeast Asia. I'd just like to read a paragraph of it, which is really the main point that I would share with you tonight. In this volatile situation, it is essential not just only to address the immediate conflict, but also to raise concerns about the forces that may support and profit from the escalation of conflict. Who stands to profit from this atmosphere of fear and hatred? Examining the motivations and interests of those who exploit division for personal or political benefit is essential. These actors should not be allowed to manipulate or use the communities of Manipur to further their agendas. End of quote. I'm mentioning this, and this really is what is the point of Dhiren's intervention. I'm really glad you shared those points, Brother Dhiren and Sister Panti. It's those stories, no? Because it's easy to be driven by all these emotions. And I remember years ago in southern Philippines, they're just waiting for a trigger. Just one trigger. For example, a military went inside the mosques. A Christian military went inside the Muslim mosque wearing combat boots. That event could really trigger into something interreligious. And it could, it's just waiting to happen. and there are a lot of stories. You could hear it even not just in our communities, but even in peaceful societies. Someone burn a comic, burn a very religious text, the Quran or any other religious book. Those are triggers, and what was just told to us, we're just an event that was waiting, that has been someone or a group is just waiting for those things to happen. The increase of this violence, it's really about controlling the region. Controlling the region in terms of the shadow economy. A shadow economy is not much discussed even in our communities. So many is benefiting out of it. Be it selling, smuggled rice, smuggled commodities, or even to the point of, let's just say, the narcotics that was just described, or even to the point of controlling structures and mechanisms for being voted, elections. Having control over region is about being able to control the future of that region. So when you increase the conflicts, you increase control, because it changes the demography of that place. Years ago, a majority ethnic group have controlled parts of Mindanao, southern Philippines. But since they've blown up all the conflict that it is about Christians and Muslims, which was never really about Christians and Muslims. It was never that way. It was because someone triggered it, someone created a Christian cult who wanted to incite violence on a Muslim population, killed some Muslims, and then the Muslim group also retaliated, created its own group that wants to that has been drawn to the cycle. But it was never about Christian against Muslims or Muslims against Christians. And we all know, because there's already a peace agreement, and it was about the self-determination of that part in Mindanao of the Muslim population determining what they want for their future. It was never about Christians and Muslims. And while you're telling the stories, it's really playing out that someone really wants this to become an intertribal conflict. And again, thank you for sharing the facts. And as again, the three speakers before me have spoken for, including Bina, that it's not really about the intertribal conflicts, but someone is benefiting out of it. Now, how did we, for example, in Southern Philippines, what are the mechanisms put in place so that this will never happen again? Because we should not allow this to happen again. Because as again, Ravinder said, this could happen to other tribes, not just the Metis and Kukis. This could also propel another escalation of violence with other groups. In the Philippines, they really established a ceasefire mechanism. Again, the elements of it is crucial, because who would ever be in that mechanism should really have the power to actually control and command groups to stop violence. So on the military side, because the military is a player, they have to put there a high-ranking general, not just someone who could, manage a mechanism, ceasefire mechanism, but someone who can control and tell troops to stop offensives, or even control the movement of troops. And on the other hand, there's also the other groups, and in the armed groups, the main armed groups have also put in people that could have actually greater influence on the larger group that are not controlled by the military, but really be able to reach out and influence groups to to also cease fire. But the ceasefire was not a prerequisite or was not a required thing to be able to talk peace. This ceasefire mechanism has been put in place even before the peace agreement was signed. It has always been a fallback because they will always fight each other, but the ceasefire committee have actually been able to intervene and put a stop to the escalation of violence. And that is crucial mechanism. And I think in Manipur, it has the same elements of so many tribes. In the Bangsamoro as well, in the southern Philippines, it has so many tribes. There are so many politicians that has their own agendas, local warlords, politicians that are into the shadow economy, benefiting out of the shadow economy, being able to control the election machinery, and even also being able to have direct access to the political power in Manila, which is the seat of government. Again, it's if there is something that's towards a ways forward, Ravi has already actually laid down a lot of it. Truth and Reconciliation Commissions is good because it is a mechanism that would really be put in place to address not just the injustices that were committed, reparations that should be done, but actually so that we will not repeat this kind of incidents to happen. So when you put that in terms of transitional justice mechanism, I've already mentioned the reparations, but it should not only be about reparations. No? There should also be some sort of efforts both from the state, which is a national level mechanism, but there should also be efforts from below, from the Manipur region, beyond Manipur, but as a region itself, inside Manipur, another layer of putting in those mechanisms, and even to the community level. This is important again in many cases, because at some point you would commemorate these massacres, you would commemorate these tragic events, but these tragic events are not just monopolized by a certain group, that this is just our celebration. Metais were killed on this day, thousands. To this day, cookies were killed, thousands. But it's really about commemorating these tragic events that Manipur or the region itself are all victims. Everyone should realize you are all victims of this. It's not about that someone or a group is really was the one instigating it, or it's really about everyone is a victim, and therefore hopefully that could propel some sort of even a point of just a dialogue, of interfaith dialogue, intertribal dialogues, and be able to transcend that. Since we are all victims here, there's a way forward that we will not be able to be played again, that someone is actually benefiting out of our conflicts, and that's so colonial, and that's so actually that's really taking advantage of the weakness of others, a very colonial legacy. And I think Manipur should be able to transcend that, so that these mechanisms will work, and therefore no one would be able to use that again. But addressing the other side of it, of benefiting the shadow economy, should really be talked about, because it's not about stopping the shadow economy itself. There should be an alternative of people benefiting out of this shadow economy. And I'm not talking here of the drugs but there are a lot of things of just mere peddlers just selling fruits on the streets. It's part of the shadow economy. They are not, let's just say, that contributing tax, but it actually helps a family. be able to feed food for their kids, and that should be allowed. And so there are a lot of layers here that needs to be again discussed, because once you hurt someone, that stopping someone earning a lot, or actually getting them getting their sources of income cut, would really create those escalation of conflict, because again, if you escalate the conflict, they control the region more. So I'll end on that note, and again, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts. As any other, I think, conflict transformation, let's say experiences from other regions, we're just here really to be able to share with it, but solutions should really be grounded, and that's what I really learned from so many conflict areas. Again, I wish Manipur peace soon, and then hopefully again visit Manipur in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fred. Again, your experiences from the Bangsamoro peace agreement and what happened in southern Philippines of an engineered conflict absolutely reverberates through many of the conflicts that we are seeing in Manipur and northeast of India. And I think people from Manipur who are involved in solution finding, we will be looking into these efforts. So we hope to continue to work with you, Fred, and your team, and like-minded people from around the world, because again, the Sanskrit saying says, the world is a global family. So what affects Manipur affects all of us. What affects Burma affects all of us. What's happening in Ukraine affects all of us. So I think there is this commonality as human beings that we got to resolve and find this. You have also touched upon a very critical point. It's about a power of domination. And I've been saying from day one that next year is general elections in India. Next year, 2024, is Indian general elections. So the timing of what is happening in Manipur, riots have been generated to create this fear psychosis so that a certain political group or power could continue to be dominant. So we are acutely aware of some of these political machinations happening. But as Ravinder Pal Singh ji said, as a former military person, we want the Indian Army, we want the Manipur force, all of them to stay to protect the lives of each and every citizen in Manipur. So this is something that you must help work with those involved in this, because right now the Assam Rifles is shown to be more community pro-centered. The Manipur Police Commandos are supposed to be pro-center. So these divisive, communalizing, all forces are happening. And the question of the fact that how come they have not been able to quell the violence. So we will continue to work, and the issue of truth and reconciliation is very important. And I think, and of course, in the end, it is about people sitting down together. I think a ceasefire mechanism is the need of the hour. Ceasefire mechanism in Manipur is the need of the hour. And I think, these are some of the things, because there are armed actors in this conflict. Right now, a bullet which usually costs, I don't know, 40 to 50 rupees is now selling for 500 rupees. A bullet, I'm talking about one bullet. So, and there's heavy arming of both sides happening. Heavy arming of both sides happening. So this is a very, very dangerous situation. And India, and particularly New Delhi, better wake up to this. Better wake up to this reality. And if the bureaucrats are sleeping, if the bureaucrats are just worried for their next position, then probably God save India. So I think we all have to ensure that we work towards. And with this, what I will do is I will open up the floor. And if anyone has any questions to any of our really, really committed and eminent speakers who have shed light on us, please feel free to unmute, introduce yourself and share. But I'm also recognizing that we have now Roibam Ratan Maite from Manipur. if he would like to say a few words, because he is right now involved with what is happening, if you could say a few words, because he has been involved in trying to see how can this fire be doused. Kapu Haibiro.
Actually, I want to start this whole point only, not explanation more. Sir Dhiren and Gonmei already mentioned nicely, but actually our point is different. This is starting root of this conflict starting from 2002 and before that. And Manipur is I already shared all of our messenger. We are the complainer. Delete 53,000 voter from the Manipur voter list. That 53,000 is mainly, I don't like to mention the community. The same communities are now provoking the problem in that line. Another line is a drug and narco-terrorism starting before 10, 15 years. We are requesting Manipur government, India government, even Prime Minister Office of India, please stop poppy plantation, the neighbor of that army camp, even though somewhere. And our Sir already mentioned is Manipur government failed. Okay, this is a fail already. Imphal is no water, no drinking water. Now, no drinking water. The government is engaging before that 3rd May tragedy start. That week, 15 days, what are they doing Manipur government duties? That time also no water, still no water. But people are so excited to how to get water. Water is a high rate in the highly rainy area in this globe. This is one point. Another point is Golden Triangle already shifted in Manipur. This Golden Triangle 2 we call in Chusampur and the Sandan district. All the laborer using in from Memanesne. Is it proof? And even though some other jail in the Manipur jail now after arrest, I want to give the testimony in the court what they are coming, how to reach, and how to settle in the Manipur. Everything is Manipur is contributing around this globe is 10% of drug from Manipur now. Who are the main kingpin? I am not saying in the 2022 election, Manipur general election, the election petition of the Manipur government website, you can check right now. I am sending link to all. The winning these 10 candidates, is it all are the holding one group? That holding one group, even Lepau Haukip, I mentioned, sorry, his brother is a UK president. And even Chaikul MLA and the Kangpupi MLA, Honorable Minister Nemsa Kipchen, her husband is a KNF president. All are holding this thing and what they complaining their opponent. That complaint, I have copy. If you interested, I am sending to you all. That complaint already mentioned what they are doing. They are the involvement of the terrorism and using armed force, this armed shoe, suspension of the operation under the India government, but that group are using against some other opponent. Only EVM allow that photo I'm sharing you all, that EVM only putting in all candidates is by bamboo transfer and only that BJP, that area only open and all the voters should be given that point only. This is a very serious, but all other BJP's party belong to Manipur and India also same party and they say double engine government, we are doing a lot of development. Why is it doing? Why is it going that money for the Jan Jeevan mission? Jan Jeevan mission is the water supply mission. They say they are already given the thousands crore to the Manipur government, and we already provide the water to all. But where is the water? You can cross-checking. That is a point only. Another last thing. Now highway is blocking. Last week, this week we met Highway Minister of Government of India, Shri Nitin Gadkari. Same day he met 2 times, but he is shouting already. He mentioned. I say you are blocking this 15-kilometer blockade. Indian Army is 40,000 coming. Paramilitary is here. Commando is here. Why did not reopen the national highway? But they say we can fight Chinese, we can fight Burmese. But a 15 kilometer cannot clean up within the 1 month. How much the capacity of the sincerity you can see that when only I don't like to mention more. That is a point. And today, ground report, many of innocent are affected this thing. Both sides relief camp is now getting proper food, proper Medicare. But our Honorable Home Minister of India already coming 3 days staying. He committed something. After that, they never stopped it both sides. I belong to the Meitei community. And I want to clarify one thing. There are churches in the Imphan Valley burned, not for the cookies. Cookie only the 10, 12 only. For the Meitei, my half of the family is a Christian. My elder brother is a Christian. But his church group already burned 100 churches, belong to my own community. But I communicate all of the church leader, why do not you pray and the memorandum, something. But some group is manipulating something, spray wrong rumor to the European Union and the US and the UK. That will be clarified from their side only. And lastly, I want to mention, many drug nexus case, you can check chronically. I give you one list. Example 2 case. One Congress minister, that time is the Congress government. Former Chief Minister, his son, airport drug dropping case, CBI inquiry going on. Another case in this present government time, is it around 270 crore Indian rupee drugs, Lukose Joe case. These things are the nexus each other and what are the things Bina know well, but we want to bring peace. How to bring peace? Only some leader motivating these things for they are gaining their political profit only, not for the community profit. Only this play is doing by the not on the cookie. I don't like to mention the cookie. Only some clan on the cookie, 2, 3 clan. They are doing for their interest. They are doing this thing now. And this is things are going on in the Imphal and Manipur. And now army is cannot do nothing. Army is doing only standing. Army, why they're blaming to our community? Why you blockade road again? Not cutting. Why you cutting the supply line and the food line of the army? Because we are the defender only, not attacking to the cookies village. You can see the chronicle of that fighting from 3rd May to 15 May to 20 May. After that, what are the doings? We don't like to sit in the globe. One commission white paper will be sharp, or some white paper will be sharp. Some international community from the Philippines, Indonesia, or a European, or American, or a neighbor Burma can come in the set. But they are the illegal, somebody said. I'm in the Jan 1994. Why? Because at that time, Election Commission of India issuing election identity card to whole Manipur. That time I'm a student, but I'm objecting. That time the president rule, Governor Naya is a governor. We object why you issuing to the foreigner to this election identity card. 1994, how many population of the cookie? Now, why they are coming so many? I don't like to explanation. medical sun frontier report in the Sampai Gate is 91,000 already enter in Myanmar. But the Myanmar, Mizoram government only claiming the 34,000 something, but all are going to Manipur. They're coming as a laborer. We know that their condition, we are a supporter of the Madam Aung San Suu Kyi party in the Myanmar, still. But by the way, this group using PDF are supporting by India government openly in front of our Meitei village in the border, More town near one Kotha village, open one camp. This is a camp is called the PDF, People Democratic Force of the NUK, National Unity Government, under the NUK. But that camp is run by Assam Rifle. Assam, we are monitoring even our village. If you granted this webinar, I will send a link from Mama, and they are now in the Tamu army camp as a refugee. 54 of them. And now Army one CEO called me some 34 inside their came in the inside More, our community. This thing happen each other both sides, but even though my younger brother chicken farm burn out, why I'm mentioning here? Why? Because 22 of the innocent cookies saved my brother. Because of that my own community burned down my brother chicken house. This thing happened, but nobody cannot stop. Truly not mandate and each other playing. Who are the playing? I don't like to mention, but we know who are the concrete. 6 of them, if you erase now, this will be finished within the second. Cool down. This is our honorable sir already telling in the before after Dhiren talking from Delhi. But I want to object some point. Why? Manipur police is a nexus. You can see the 3rd of May deployment of the Manipur police. Now commission is already commissioned. We will give the affidavit to the commission. Why that day in the 3rd May burning in front of the army camp? Within the half kilometer, no half kilometer, it's only the crossing one road in that Assam Rifle came and one Gurkha came. In front of that village, burning all the village, Torbung, Bangla. We asking why you not helping to save our people. There's no instruction to save from the higher authority. Even though Kaksing, side of Kaksing, southern Manipur, Indo-Myanmar border side, women folk are blocking national highway for checking something. The army want to proceed some southern Manipur fighting going on. But that came already into some women folk leader. Why are you disturbing always? You want to go southern Shero and Shugunu is a gun battle fighting going on. You want to deploy army. Yes, but why did not shape my people? They said no instruction from the higher authority. This is real. This is true. They're never helping. They help somehow, some point. I appreciate Indian Army and the Manipur police and the paramilitary force. Their life is a sacrifice some way. But the large amount, they are only eyes watching only. Even though my village side, you can see in the side, Assam Rifle blocking to defend, save our own community home, freely looting cows and rice and every house material. Now before 3 hours ahead, some people calling from the Indo-Myanmar border, More, now starting looting all the unburned houses, furniture, everything, and the bulldozer of the.
Yes, we have lost Kapu, but I think what he's saying is very, very clear. Kapu, we have lost you, but right now, I think as the time, we are also closing in 3 minutes.
Sometimes clarification.
Yeah,
One community, the whole police leader. Thank you, Bina. Thank you all.
Okay, so it is very, very clear from Kapu has been, again, it is really time now that if the Manipur government, if the Indian government is not able to maintain peace for 37 days, Is it time to call the UN peacekeeping troops? And India will never allow that. India doesn't even allow journalists. India doesn't allow international aid organizations to reach there. But the point that we are actually asking is, how can we let our brothers and sisters, our children, to be burned, to be killed, our villages, both in the hills and the valley? How can this be possible in 2023 is the question that everyone is asking. Why has Assam Rifles not been instructed to stop the burning in Torbung, and why are the people of Manipur angry that the army or could be siding? So again, I know that border security forces have come in huge numbers in the past 48 hours, and we continue to call upon the Modi government to stop this killing. So that's our first important. Second thing, what Kapu also said is very critical. People are now having no access to drinking water. Our own team had to send water bottles so that they could. These are citizens, civilians trapped in the conflict, a very violent conflict. So people need access to food. Rice is shortage. We are trying to ensure rice reaches, medicines, and so many people have been injured. Thousands have been homeless. So that's the other humanitarian crisis that we haven't even discussed today. But the point is, again, I'm thankful to each and every one of you who are right there. In the next meeting, we will be inclusive of all the voices of all the communities. Again, we did this particular meeting with a lot of care, knowing that things are so sensitive right now that anyone saying anything could be misconstrued. But again, we will continue these kind of conversations, small or big. This is not a show, but an attempt to ensure that we understand what are the issues, what are the shadow economy happening, so that the public is informed. Otherwise, it's the propaganda driving this conflict, is hurting human lives on the ground. And that's something that we, as International Peace Bureau and the Global Alliance of Indigenous People and the Manipur Women Gun Survivors Network, we will stand strong to ensure that we are able to get peace back. Ceasing the ceasefires, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, ensure that the government of India, the Modi government, do not put our lives on stake for their politics and vote banks. We are also calling upon all the narco traffickers that we know now your games. Again, many of the smaller peddlers from very poor families, the laborers trying to survive. We call upon the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and the government of India and the Narcotics Control Board to arrest those drug kingpins. Please stop electing drug lords to our members as parliament or as members of the Legislative Assembly. This is the issue. Gun running, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. This is a crux in which innocent communities that our identities have been weaponized to suit, to be products of their profit and their power. I think this is why civil society, communities, we have to stand very strong. And again, as I mentioned, we did this meeting with a lot of care, and that's why you are not seeing a lot of people here, because deliberately, we need to understand these issues properly, sit down together. We will have more convenings like this to listen to different voices of the community. And once we are sure that all of these discussions come to a certain resolution, then we will open up to the whole world this debate. But right now, it requires a great sensitivity, and I'm so thankful to each and every one of you for participating, for sharing your views so honestly. Again, do not quote, we are under Chatham House rules. Even this video, we will not release it until it is safe, because things are so sensitive at home that whatever we say could be hurting other lives. So again, this is done in a good faith to save lives on the ground of all communities, for all Manipuris, for every citizen, and for every human being. They deserve to live. No community should be criminalized. They shouldn't be named or labeled of anything, but ensure that we are able to go back to peace. Again, resolving the differences and addressing the concerns which the coloniality of power have played with our lives. This is not a phenomenon that happened on 3rd of May or 2002. This is a phenomena of centuries of colonization, of years of colonization. So this is where the crux of the issue is, as we understand, and we will do all we can, wherever we are, in our power and in our strength, to resolve this. And I'm thankful to the International Peace Bureau, particularly Theo, who's joined in from Brazil and who set up this channel, to Cora, in spite of all her important work, and also an ongoing conference in Vienna on the war on Ukraine. She's here with us. Sean, who's not here, and everyone who has supported. To Panti, in spite of her ill health, to Fred Lubang, and most importantly to Tamo Dhiren and Ratan, who has been at the front lines working very hard. Again, keep the spirit that we have to continue to coexist as communities, grow together. Okay, yes. Panti, you want to say something before we close? Yeah. Oh, I think she was. Okay. With this, if anyone has any final words, Panti, I think you wanted to speak. You are muted. You are muted. And after Panti, we will close. Panti, you are muted. Yeah. Okay, you're still muted. Panti, you are still muted.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Ina, for this privilege. And I'm so happy to hear from our brothers and sisters. And I'm so happy, especially for this topic today. And I hope we'll continue this restoring peace and normal way forward. And this is the right topic, I think, at this time. And I wish if we could continue. Today, of course, we have been a bit maybe diverting about talking a bit more on our grievances, but in the coming days, we'll focus more on this, because our main focus will be on restoring peace in our state. That's why I'm so happy, and as I have mentioned, so I'll be always praying for you and for our team, working for peace. Thank you so much. God bless you.
So much, Panti. And thank you, Laika, Sam, Mina, and Aniza for joining us. And thank you so much. Everyone, take good care of yourselves. And thank you so much for all your support. We will continue our work for peace in Manipur, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in Afghanistan, in Philippines, around the world. We are a global family, and will continue to strive towards a great to protect people, peace, and the planet. Thank you.